to ALC. Welcome to Sensational Sundays.
ALC Global. Hello, I'm Ed Montgomery. Thank you so much for being with me. You are watching Sensational Sunday. Yes, you are. I'm not going to even be here very long. I just got to set this up because I don't want to say this is a tough one, but this is one that I probably need to explain a little early. I had to come in a little early and explain this. And I'm calling this little segment right here, Black Currency. I know it may be something you never heard, and it may kind of twin some of you. It may offend some of you. But, sometimes you got to deal with that. I am the founder, pastor, director of Abundant Life Cathedral, Abundant Life Center. I'm also your host for Sensational Sunday that you hear on Sunday mornings, and also your host for After Dark that I do through the week. That is a little bit more just conversation with you, kind of sort of what I'm doing right now. But I'm not going to be here doing this long because I'm going to flip you into Sensational Sunday, because Sensational Sunday is good today. Oh my God, it's gonna grab you, so don't you go anywhere. But I gotta set this up. If you've ever heard me teach about money, people a lot of times may cringe when they hear preachers talk about money, but you're not looking at you're looking at a new deal. We're in a new era now. When I talk about money, what we call currency, money is not cash. Money to me is not a $20 bill or a $10 bill or a $50 bill or a $100 bill. Somebody says, oh man, what I need is some money. And they give you a $100 bill or a $50 bill. That's not money. When I say that's money, that's not money to me. That to me is currency. Currency is in denominations of $1, $5, $10, $50, $100, $20. That's currency. In other words, what currency is what I call money in suspended animation. Now listen to me very carefully. Let me break down money. You've been with me any length of time over the years. I'm not talking about, this is not just something I picked up last year. I've been talking about this since the 80s. Oh yeah, it goes that far back. Money is time. How many of you ever heard people talk about, man, come on, keep talking. Hey, time is money. Time, energy, creativity, work. Come on, man, you got to speed up this work process. Hey, this is money going on. And ability. Now, I've got some others, but they're not the top category, but I'll use time, energy, creativity, work, ability. That's money. When you need money, you go to your creativity. When you need money, you use your ability. When you need money, you go to work. You may not have no creativity or ability, but you may have the ability to flip a burger. You may not want to flip a burger. You may have a degree, may have a master's degree, but right now you need some money. You need money. You see what I'm saying? And when you need money, then you've got to use your work. So you got to go to work, taking maybe less than your worth, but that's negotiable. You negotiate it till you can get, not the owner, but you negotiate to get what you want. Now, that's money. Currency is this time, energy, creativity, ability, is in suspended animation. Somebody gives you a check, paper, or currency. In other words, that's what you just worked for. You sold whatever you had for an hour. And you take whatever you got for an hour for that, and you got the $20 bill or whatever you got. Now, that's currency. That's green. What is black currency? This, when people were brought over from Africa from what was considered to be for enslavement. They were looked upon not as human beings. They were looked upon as currency. Some thing that would work, whether it was picking cotton, whether it was sugar cane, whether it was in the fields, whether it was domestic work, whatever it was, when they are not paid currency and they do the work, they become the currency. Are you catching up with me now? That's right. So when you become the currency, people don't want to let go of that too easy because that's their currency. Okay? What is black currency? Black currency is when you recognize that regardless, when you look at your skin, just like you look at the currency, you say, that's what I need, man. I need some greenbacks. Well, there were people in this country that looked at the color black just like you look at the color green. Now, let's go into Sensation Sunday.
You ought to read it sometime. We get to wrestle not against flesh and blood, but for the weapons of our warfare. Now, we read Ephesians 6. That's not in there, but it says, put on the whole armor of God. That's Ephesians 6. Read the first part of it, where it talks about the master and the slave. There are parts in the New Testament that speaks of the fact of the hierarchy of things, and the master is ahead of the enslaved. Paul was writing in Philemon. Philemon was about a slave master, Onesius, who was a slave, and Paul wanted to keep him because he helped him at no charge. Now, don't leave your scriptures, because you have to understand now, that is not what we're looking for. We're looking for in between the words. We're looking for what Jesus is saying, because you see, we are not followers of Paul, we are followers of Jesus. Now, so the reason all of this takes place and happens is because in America, they brought this over from Europe, the same folk that dealt with this in Europe. Same theologians brought it over as Puritans and separatists into America. Now, because you cannot sleep at night unless you have a spiritual basis for enslavement. You must believe it is the will of God. Where is the will of God taught back in those days? They were taught in the churches. What church? The church that black people can't go to, that they think they can now. Well, yes, they can. Well, really, you can, but you don't know what you're listening to. Because what you're listening to, there will be passages of doctrine that you're listening to that reinforce the enslavement that will get you to the belief and understanding that you are not up to par. You need a ministry, a word that will make you free. Now, the truth will set you free. No, it won't. You don't want that kind of truth. I don't need to be set free. Once you set me free, I can be bound again. I need a truth, as the scripture actually says, the truth will make you free. When you are made free, you are not made free from the outside in, you are made free from the inside out. All right, you better leave me alone, because I'll preach in a minute. I'm in a mood for it here last few weeks. So what we understand is we've been currency. Those who were enslaved were currency. And America was built on that. The roads and the streets, the taxations, the funds in the 1800s and 1700s. the buildings that were built, the trees that were knocked down, the plantations and the ranches and the land that was bought and sold could not be bought and sold by people of color. And over time, as it was being built, modest at first, but then they began to move into concrete and higher until skyscrapers began to get into the sky that would not allow people of color to even rent a room from. But yet, you say, well, they didn't build that. There is something called compound interest. Compound interest is something, if you take $1 and then add another $1, you got 2. Double it, you got 4. Double it again, you got 8. Double it 27 times, there's enough money to reach the moon and back. That's millions. Keep doubling it and doubling it and doubling. That's compound interest. How much do you think people of color are worth in America right now? But it doesn't matter. What matters is how much do you think you are worth? See, I could care less about trying. Okay, I'll give it to you this way. They had a little thing that was on the internet, and they had this man with these cookies. And the man sitting in the middle had 3 guys. And when that man is sitting in the middle, he's got a plate full of cookies. There's so many cookies, the cookies are falling off the plate. On the other side is this white guy who got 1 cookie. And on the other side is a black guy who got no cookies. And so they're both looking at the guy with all the cookies. And so the guy with all the cookies turns to the white guy and he says, hey, that guy over there wants to take your cookie. He's your problem. And so the guy looks over there, and the black guy's looking over at him. And so he says, I'm going to go. So he goes over, and the guy over here with 1 cookie protects his cookie. And he says, hey, why don't we get together and see if we can get some cookies from him? He's the one with all the cookies. But the guy with the 1 cookie says, no. And he says, why not? Because, you see, one day I want to be like him. So I want to keep the laws that he has. I want to keep all of the perks that he has, so that when I get to be like him, because you see, I look like him. And you don't, but when I get to be like him, that I'm going to have all the cookies. So the black guy says, but if we work together, what? But the guy with all the cookies, he won't give us any. Well, he has his flaws, but I believe in his principles. You have to realize, you must begin to realize who you are. Jesus was a master of teaching inner understanding of yourself. He had women as his disciples, and they never taught you all that growing up, that the women were just as much of Jesus' disciples as the 12. Did they? They taught you what, Luke chapter 8, and the women were with him, that traveled with him. Most of you have never read that passage. First couple of verses. And the scripture says, and here's the women, Mary Magdalene, and they list all the women that traveled with him. And then they say, for they are the ones who had the money. It's in your Bible. They don't teach it in the other churches because they don't want women to understand they carry power. You only supposed to be ladies at home, cooking and raising the children. If that's what you want to do, ain't nothing wrong with it. But it is not necessarily God's will. And that's what they tell you is God's will. This is why you need a prophet to speak into your life, someone to tell you that is not what the Lord has said. And you see, you can't talk to powerful people because powerful people will fire you. You can't talk to top producers in music and tell them you can't do that. Because if you're in their camp and tell them you can't do that, they will fire you and get somebody who is a preacher and tell them that they can. Or I would have more sons in the ministry. But it was a Nathan who spoke to a David and says, you can't do this. That woman is pregnant. Bathsheba got a baby. Well, I don't think it's right. David, you're the one that did it. Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah. David, you had her husband killed and took her. Oh, well, I guess I did, didn't I? Thou art the man. Yeah, I guess so. Oh, my goodness. Nathan says, the prophet says that that was a rabbit hole I just went down. The prophet says to David, he says, David, do you realize that, see, this is why you have to have a teacher to help you through here, that God has given you all the single women in Israel? All of them. You could pick from any one of them, or any two of them, or two of them, or four, or six. That was them during them times, and my flesh almost got on me, and I was getting ready to say with baby oil, but I'm not going to say that. He said, you could have done that, David, but what you did was you took someone that belonged to someone else, and it was their only thing they had in their life, and you took it, and this is why God is on your behind. But you see, here's what faith does. Now, I'm going to leave you with an understanding of it, and you're going to grasp it right here. Matthew chapter 17, verse 10. I'm going to ask my reader to start reading. I hope I start at the right place.
And his disciples asked him, saying, why then do the scribes say that Elijah must come first?
Keep reading a little bit louder.
Jesus answered and said to them, indeed, Elijah is coming first and will restore all things. But I say that...
Go about two scriptures down, two more scriptures, and try there, around verse 12.
12? Okay. But I say to you that Elijah has come already.
No. Go to verse 14.
14. And when they had come to the multitude, a man came to him, kneeling down to him and saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is an epileptic and suffers severely. For he often falls into the fire and often into the water. So I brought him to your disciples, but they did not cure him. Then Jesus answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I bear with you? Bring him here to me. And
all right, I'm going to stop you right there. My time is running out, but I'm going to stop you right there. What I wanted you to hear, and if you didn't quite hear it, you can look at it. I probably got it around verse 15 or 16 out of chapter 17 of Matthew. And Jesus had come down from a mountain. The three disciples were there with him. It was the Transfiguration, what they call the Transfiguration. Came down. There was a big ruckus going on. They were arguing. The disciples were arguing with each other because the man that brought his child to be cured, and he brought him to the disciples, and the disciples could not cast whatever was cast out of the child, whatever was going on. And so the father, Jesus comes down, and the father goes to Jesus and say, your disciples could not cast it out. And then Jesus turns around and looks and says, O faithless generation, how long am I going to be with you? How long do I have to bear this? How long do I have to take this? So he goes on, casts the thing out of the child. And then he's walking home, and the disciple says, I want to ask you a question when we get home. Jesus said, okay. They get to the house, get to Jesus' house. Jesus had a house. And they walk in Jesus' house. And when they go in, the disciple says, why could we not cast it out? Jesus said, because your faith. And he says, if you had the faith of the grain of a mustard seed, you could speak to that mountain and it'll move. Now, here is where I'm going, and it will take me a little while. Jesus would also say, this man has great faith. Then he would say, oh, ye of little faith. Then he would say, oh, ye of little faith, why did you doubt? So if you had little faith, Peter sunk in the water because of little faith. But all you need is the faith the size of a grain of mustard seed to move a mountain. Now, what is it? Big faith, little faith, or great faith? This is where it's brought me to this place. I'm not a perfect individual, so it takes me a while. In my age, where I am now, takes me a while. I can't push it all in one sermon or one message no more. I can't do that, and I ain't gonna do it. I decided to let folk walk off and go on about their business, because what I got to tell you is something that set me free. It set my image of myself free. That's why my hair is blue sometimes. Because I do what I want the way I want to do things. I'm saying my hair is gray that time. According to what color they put it in. It's silver though. I'm just waiting for it when it turns all silver. I want this big silver effect. But anyway, what I learned is to have this thing about yourself, that you don't let anybody tell you who you are, how you supposed to be a Christian, how you supposed to act. Now, I'm not going to get out there and act a fool, because there is something to me about Christianity that uses the word also character and integrity. Understand that. That's not me. But Jesus is saying all these different levels, amounts of faith. How much faith does it take to do this? What I'm submitting to you, it is not about the amount of faith. When Jesus says great faith, it is in the scripture that I read to you, that he read to you. And that is, how long do I have to be with you? How long do I have to suffer this? How long do I have to be here before y'all understand it? Understand what? Understand faith. But I thought faith was a commodity, something you had in your pocket, something you believe in God to do. And I'm believing God. Jesus is saying faith was something he was teaching them from the very first time he met them. Faith is teaching. Faith is a particular kind of teaching. The level of your faith is based to the level of your understanding. According to your faith, be it unto you. What you receive is according to your faith. There was a man that did not go to church. He was a centurion, was not even a Jew. Jesus said, greater faith has nobody, not even in Israel. This man is not even one of us, and has the greatest faith that I've ever seen. What is it? It is an understanding of spiritual things. This election is going to be interesting, because there are three things you have to watch out concerning faith. And that is a lie, teaching with error. Oh, I forgot the other one. I'll pick it up next week.
Allow me to break in here just a moment. You know, a lot of people talk about the power of a seed or the power within a seed. We all know that inside of an acorn is an oak tree or several oak trees. Inside of a pine cone are pine trees, acres of pine trees. But where does the inside of the seed get its power from? I found this very interesting. The outer hull or the casing of the seed, which is very hard, it's what keeps the seed alive throughout the years. Even in Egypt, they have found seeds that are in mummies' tombs that are 3,000 years old. Plant them and they still bring forth the fruit of what that seed is. Why? Because of the outer hull. When you put a corn seed in the ground, or when you put wheat seed in the ground or the earth, when you put any kind of seed in the earth, of course you water it and you have the sunlight to give it heat. So you got moisture and heat. And what does the moisture and heat do? It breaks down the outer hull of the seed until it becomes moist and pliable. But what does the inside of the seed do? Here it is. It eats it. It nourishes the inside. So the thing that is hard on the outside can become soft enough to be edible from what's inside. Let me say this to you. The power of a seed is not just you on the inside of it. The power of a seed is the ability to be able to take the tough things in life, the hard things in life, the unedible things in life, the things you can't swallow, the scars that won't heal. And when you allow the sunlight and moisture and rain and abundance to come upon it, it will get soft enough for you to feed on the tough things in life. And when you learn to feed on the tough things in life, you get stronger. Here's what a seed is. A seed is what you plant. Take a moment, plant a seed with us now to help us get our message out to other people, to encourage and build other people. Call the number that's on your screen. You can text to give. It's very powerful, very popular. You can say it 713-742-2035. 713-742-2035. You can also go to myalc.org. That's myalc.org. Go online and give through that safe medium. It will do something for you. It will be a seed. And then when you're tempted to worry, how is this going to help me? Whenever something tough comes in your life, you just say, just wait. I'm going to use this toughness for my triumph. I promise you that. Giving will make you feel warm inside.